Next, we're actually going to compare probabilities. We're going to compare experimental probability to theoretical probability because those two things and two concepts are different. Okay, and so we're going to start with a coin investigation. So let's say you want to toss a coin. Okay, what's the theoretical probability of turning up heads? Well, let's see. Heads is one possible outcome. And if you're flipping a coin, how many outcomes are there in total, right? So the number of possible outcomes is actually two, because you could get either a head or you could get a tail, okay? And so the theoretical probability is actually 50% that you would get either a head or a tail, okay? So you get a 50% chance that you get a head, you get a 50% chance that you could get a tail, okay? So let's experiment. Let's toss a coin 10 times in the air, okay? And we'll record that number, the number of times that heads turns up. So let's say that I'm going to toss my coin. I'm going to actually do it experimentally. And when I do it, it only flips 4 times, okay? I only get heads 4 times. So 4 out of the 10 times I end up with heads, okay? So that means that uh, I actually ended up with only, in my experiment, only a 40% chance of getting ahead during the experiment. Okay, so I'm going to record my experimental probabilities. I'm going to share the results with the class. So let's say hypothetically that the class gets heads a number of different times. So I got heads 4 times. Okay, and then let's say group 2 got it 6 times. Group 3 got it 7 times. Group 4 3 times. Group 5 2 times. Group 6 8 times. Group 7 5 times. Group 8 6 times. Group 9 4 times. And group 10 got 6 times. Okay? So again, when the class does this particular experiment, you're all going to get a slightly different result. But what we're going to do is we're going to total up our results here. So we've got 4 plus 6 plus 7 plus 3 plus 2 plus 8 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4 plus 6. Okay, and we end up with 51. Okay, so, and in total, because each group tossed it 10 times, 10 flips for 10 groups, that means out of 100 times. Okay, so 51 out of 100 times, okay, or 51% of the time, if we average out all of the experiments, 51% of the time, heads was actually rolled. So what's important to note is that theoretical and experimental probability are not the same thing. Okay? They are not the same thing. However, as the number of trials increases, okay, so if we increase the number of trials, okay, if we do the more trials that we do, then the experimental probability usually gets closer to the theoretical probability. Okay? So if I flip a coin 3 times, I might, it's probably pretty relatively easy to get, 3 heads or 3 tails. But if I flip a coin 300 times, then it's probably going to be much closer to that 50-50 theoretical probability mark. So the more trials that you do, the more experimental data that you have, the closer to the theoretical result you should actually get.